Okay, let's go ahead and get started. If we could get everybody to sit down and we'll get the program going. We've had some great programs throughout the year, and this month is really going to be a good program. How could it not be a great program when you got Gary Tonjes on the agenda? So that must be special. As we start out every month, we've got some dignitaries and political officials that I'd like to take time to introduce. And when I call their name, ask them to stand, and let's give them a round of applause for being here. First of all, to start off for state representatives, Jimmy Hall and Monica Youngblood. Bernalillo County Commissioners, Maggie Hart-Stevens, Lonnie Talbert. And we have Albuquerque City Councilor, Trudy Jones and Roxana Myers. And as a reminder, Roxana is also a candidate for re-election for City Council, so good luck. We have Lonnie Clayton, counselor for the Rio Rancho Governing Board. Michael DeWitt, chairman of the C&M Governing Board. Ron Brown and Tim Eichenberg, directors of MAFCA. And we'd also like to recognize another city councilor candidate, Ron O. Garcia, District 3. Throughout the year, we've talked an awful lot about membership, and you've heard me say before that membership really is the lifeblood for this organization. With those dues that everybody pays, we're able to bring the programs forth that we're able to do, plus take on a lot of the issues that we have within the community supporting all your organizations. So we appreciate any new members. You can refer to us. If you're not a member, we'd appreciate you joining and look forward to that. I would like to recognize two new members today, Joshua Smith, Washington Federal, and Christina Alexandra Baca, a student from UNM. So thank you all very much. As a reminder, if you do have folks that are interested in joining, you can see Ray Smith with Klinger or Monica Myers with Century Sign Builders, or any of the NAOPS staff can help you become a member. Let's get to our sponsors today because they make this event possible. Our first sponsor is Bank of Albuquerque, and Darren Davis is going to make the introductions, but he doesn't have a microphone. Perfect. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Darren Davis with the Commercial Real Estate Lending Department, and on behalf of myself and our 330 team members here in Albuquerque, Bank of Albuquerque is very happy to sponsor today's event. At our table, we have Mr. John Garcia. Everybody knows the City of Albuquerque. Welcome, John. I have Jennifer Thomas, our CEO for Bank of Albuquerque. From Commercial Real Estate Department, I have the manager, Larry Levi, a lender, Jessica Austin, and our credit analyst, Crystal Carmona. From Treasury Services, manager Michael Bickle and Michelle Heckroth. From Business Banking, Brandon Chavez, many of you know, and our manager for Private Banking, Angela Silva. So thanks again. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it very much. With Bradbury and Stam, we have Lawrence Peterson.
Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the entire Bradbury Stam team, I'd like to say thank you to the speakers and to NAOP for today's event. First, I'd like to introduce you to our guests. First of all, we have Bob Gorel, Director of the New Mexico Public School Facility Authority. Very pleased to be working with Bob on a few projects around the state. We have Jim Hamill, CIP Program Manager, the City of Albuquerque's Municipal Development Group. We're very pleased to be working with Jim on the blacksmith shop down at the rail yards. We have Evan Smith somewhere here with Bruckner's. I hope he finds us soon. We have Dave Walbright. Dave's the Corporate Director of Sales and Marketing with Haverland Carter Lifestyle Group. Dave's the guy to talk to about La Vida Llena and their new community in Rio Rancho. So thanks to our guests. Secondly, our team, we have Cynthia Schultz, our president, Jim King, Chairman, Dennis Town, our Executive Vice President, Jim Lloyd, our Senior Project Manager, and Michelle King, our Marketing Manager. My name's Lawrence Peterson. I'm the Business Development guy, and I'd like to talk to you about your next construction project. We do public, private projects, big and small. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Appreciate it very much. And with Main Bank, we have Ron Shuttlesworth.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Main Bank and our mortgage division, Ameriplex Mortgage, we're proud to be one of the sponsors of today's events, and I'm also happy to have several guests of Main Bank with us. First, we've got Carol Steele and Adam Ashcraft with Hangers Cleaners. We've got Bill Robertson and Tom Frankini of Colliers International. My associate, Alan Shuttlesworth with Main Bank. Roger Probasco with Chaparral Materials. From Dallas, J.D. Aragon, who is with TIB, also known as the Independent Bankers Bank. And then Larry and Elaine Breen of Dorman and Breen Architects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. And with Peterson Properties, Doug Peterson.
Thank you, Bruce. Peterson Properties is sure glad to be a sponsor today. I'm Doug Peterson, and it's my pleasure to introduce everyone at my table. First, we have James Jaramillo of Coba Investments in All Washed Up, and then Brecken Millette, who is a leasing representative with us. Chris Klepper of Sandia Area Federal Credit Union. Hugh Floyd of Eastern Lane Consultants and the current chairman of the Albuquerque Environmental Planning Commission. Then it's Eric and Terry Johnson of Johnson Commercial. Then Bo Gallus, our other leasing representative. And I'm going to let this last gentleman introduce himself.
Thank you, Doug. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ron Garcia, and I am a candidate for City Council for District 3. So remember that name, because if you do not live in the district, guaranteed you know someone that lives there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. And with Rohde Law Firm, John Salzar.
Thank you. The Rohde firm is very pleased to be a NAIOP sponsor, and particularly to be associated with a good news program. So we're all looking very much forward to that. And with that, I'd like to introduce initially some of the lawyers with Rohde. And I'd like to introduce Justin Horwitz, who's the new chairman of our business department, doing a great job. And Alan Hall, who's one of our bond lawyers, also does real estate. Charles Seibert, who's also a real estate and business lawyer. And Robert Lucero, who's one of our real estate attorneys, who also does post-secondary education law. And then as for our guests, I'm just delighted that we've got an all-star cast with us today, and I'm pleased to introduce them to you, starting with Mike DeWitt, who's doing a super job as chairman of the board of the C&M governing body. And as we all know, C&M is everybody's favorite community college. And we also have with us a fan favorite, Trudy Jones, with the City Council, who does a great job, stays tuned, and takes care of all of us with business issues. So we appreciate that, Trudy. I also have Harry Relkin, who's general counsel for the State Land Office. And Harry has been very involved and very prominent in helping the State Land Office in doing a lot of impressive public-private partnership projects. So that's been a real good thing for economic development for New Mexico. And we also have Thaddeus Lucero, who's the Director of Planning and General Services at Mr. Cog, where he's helping plan so that we can take care of our current and future situations. So Thaddeus, thank you for that. And we've got Bill Woolman, who's here representing Senator Udall, our state's senior senator, who's, among many other things, has been working very hard for many years now to help make the United States Senate functional. So with that, we thank our guests for being with us, and we thank each of our guests for doing all you do for New Mexico.
Thank you, John. And thanks to all of our sponsors. We also today have a media sponsor, and I'd like to introduce Ian Anderson, publisher for Albuquerque Business First. We'll give Ian the microphone.
Thank you. On behalf of Albuquerque Business First, we are very proud to sponsor and be the media partner for NAIOP's event. And while we understand that New Mexico and Albuquerque certainly has its its economic development challenges, it's important not to overlook some of the fantastic things that are happening right in our backyard in innovation and growth in the private sector. So if you haven't picked up an issue lately, we've made a lot of changes of our own in the last 18 months, and you have an issue on the most recent issue on your seat right now. So NAOP members, actually, they get a special offer on subscriptions. So thank you for having us here, and thank you.
Ian, thank you very much. And again, thanks to all of our sponsors for everything you do. We appreciate it very much. Also at your chair, we have a flyer announcing our upcoming golf tournament. Please note the date change of that tournament is now September 18th. As a reminder, a portion of those proceeds from that event go to the Regional Science Fair program, which is really a great opportunity. We help fund some of the students and winners to go to the international event. Also, as a reminder, I think I saw people dumping their cards in, but we'll have a drawing at the end of the luncheon for a $100 gift certificate to Coronado Center, donated by Randy Sanchez. So, Randy, thank you very much for that. Now, let's get to our program. It's a good news program for the day. And it's my pleasure to introduce Gary Tonjes, who's going to act as our moderator for today. Gary is president of Albuquerque Economic Development. He joined AED in 1994, right out of high school. AED is a private nonprofit member organization funded principally by leading members of the business community. AED's mission is to vigorously recruit business and industry to generate quality opportunities in the Albuquerque metro area. Since 1960, AED has served as Albuquerque's lead organization for recruitment of more than 200 new companies to the metropolitan area. AED's work contributed to the recruitment of Fidelity Investments, Gap Inc.'s Corporate Shared Services Center, Paycheck, and Temper Parapedic. Easy for you to say. So anyways, with that, let's introduce Gary and welcome him to the podium today. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Today's program is simply intended to celebrate some of the good news in the metro area and state. None of us are satisfied with where we are in the recovery, but there are some good things emerging. But based on the feedback that we got from you all, we won't adequately be able to cover what we are covering, and we're not going to cover all of the items that you sent forward. This is just a sampling. Conditions are improving. The outlook is brighter. New faces are in the spotlight, and you'll meet a few of those today. You know, it's funny, though. You never know what it is that you're going to get when you send out an inquiry like the one that you received from NAOP about good news. And I'm going to say some of it was absolutely spot on, what it is that we're looking for. And then there are a few things that were, let's say, they're one-off a little bit. I'll give you an example. With responses, we got in a lot of different feedback. With responses kind of grouped in different categories, around sports and fitness, we got the following. APS is about to open one of the finest high school stadiums in the Southwest. Tony Snell was a first-round draft pick and is now a millionaire. And this came in from John Garcia, who said that he bought several pairs of Lululemon stretch pants for half off. Let this serve as a warning to you. Don't stand behind him at yoga. Open government is good, but sometimes you can go too far with transparency. Today's program will require some mental gymnastics. We're going to jump around a bit. Let me introduce you to 4 of our speakers with a few more to come. Would Stu Rose, John Chavis, Melissa Forrest, and Andy Lim please come forward? Each of these 4 has 7 minutes to share their story, and I will be the rude timekeeper. Actually, it won't be necessary. This is a great group. Welcome. Many of the good news comments came back about healthcare and life sciences. Russ Medical Center, UNMH, UNM Cancer Center, what they're doing. 700 new employees to be added at Blue Cross Blue Shield and at Molina. Major hospital renovations coming, startup healthcare and bioscience companies, and one very cool new place to grow them. Our first speaker is Dr. Stuart Rose of the Bioscience Center. Dr. Rose has over 40 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. He was previously the president and CEO of Albuquerque's Oso Biopharmaceutical Manufacturing, a contract a contract manufacturing organization for injectable pharmaceuticals. He's held executive positions with many major companies, and he is on the board of at least 2 startups today. He holds a PhD in chemistry from Wayne State University in Detroit, and he's really on to something special, I think. Please welcome Stu Rose, Dr. Stuart Rose.
Okay. Thank you, Gary, and thank you all for having me here today. I'm going to try and talk very fast and tell you a little bit about the Bioscience Center. First, there we are, corner of essentially I-40 and San Pedro. Center building, there are 3 buildings there in reality, although they're connected. Center building was built in 2001. The north wing, which is the one to the left, was built in 2002, and the south wing, which contains laboratories, was built in 2005. The company that was there outgrew it, moved out to, I think, Tramway and I-40, and we came along and bought the building. The reality is we closed on the building just about a year ago today. We undertook some renovations. A couple of people moved into the building starting in October in a couple of the offices before we had much of anything going there. And then we renovated the labs and actually opened the facility officially on January 11th last year. What we are is an incubator accelerator for entrepreneurs and startups, all focused on biotechnology or healthcare in some way. But what that means is that everyone there, almost all of the companies there, do not yet have revenue. What we are is unique in many ways. One, what we do is we're more than just a facility that people rent, where people rent space. We create a collaborative and collegiate environment. We offer mentoring, so it's the kind of place where people help each other without charging. We don't use secrecy agreements. We'll just have someone's been experienced in some field. Someone else will come over and talk to them, and they just provide advice. Most startups have expertise in whatever their technology is, but they may not know about marketing, they may not know about the legal aspects, they may not know about accounting aspects, so we provide mentoring in all those fields. The space that we offer it says inexpensive, but that's a relative term. Just by way of example, we treat startups differently than others, so if you're a startup and you come to our place, office space is $17 a foot. If you're not a startup, then it's $20. In our lab space, it's $19 a square foot. So it's very competitive pricing, but not really cheap. The key is we have shared resources. So we've done deals we provide internet and phone and everything else where we amortize the cost over the entire building. And so everyone's just paying a small piece of the total cost. One of the nice aspects about being in the biotechnology field is that funding sources, investors, even national investors, come to us and say, well, what's going on in your place? We hear about one company that's been successful. What else is happening there? So they come and knock on our door and wander around to find out what's going on. Our wet labs, one of our laboratories is what we call a community lab. So instead of renting it full time, you can rent it for a day or a week, or a day a week, or any kind of time period that you want. So someone who only has a short experiment to do, they just come and we'll rent them the space to do that. We're also different than the other incubators in the state in that we are a for-profit incubator. Now, but we're not real estate people. So the reality is that the rent isn't going to cover the cost of operating the building. What we do and what we offer to startups is we allow them to pay as much as half the rent in shares. And therefore, we have a stake in their success. The reality is the profits will only come from those companies that become successful so that we can then dispose of the shares at a profit. We're also working closely with the other incubators in the state, most of which are nonprofit and get support from various government entities. And we're creating what we're trying. It used to be that these incubators competed against each other. Someone was looking for space and they each wanted that company to move in. No more. Now we're cooperating because what we've realized is that it's New Mexico against the rest of the world. And so we have to create a critical mass here that makes us appealing to everyone else outside the state. So what we're really trying to do and what the whole incubator business is about nationwide is creating startups and stimulating entrepreneurism. These are the resident companies in biotechnology. Now, it's really more than that because many of the entrepreneurs that have started these companies have more than one company, but these are the people whose name is on the lease. If you look at the next slide, we also have what we're calling anchor tenants. These are people who aren't startups, but these are people who are providing support to startups. Okay, next one. One of the interesting aspects of our business is what we're trying to do is create business collisions. It's the same kind of thing that's occurring here in this room. And that is we want people to bump into each other. Hi, I'm Stu. What do you do? What do you do? Oh, I'm having an idea that I wonder if you could help me with this particular problem I'm having. And we've already had, since we opened this place in January, we've already had 3 new major projects start up because of people who didn't know each other, who found each other and started some new major project. That's exactly what's happening in our Bioscience Center. Next. I mentioned we are appealing to funding sources. And here we are. Adjuvax is a vaccine company. They're looking to raise $4 million right now. They already have 2 $1 million commitments. Both of those are contingent upon finding a lead investor, but that's almost going to be a slam dunk, and I'm guessing within the next 6 weeks they'll have that done. Aqua Access, a company with water technologies, has raised $31,000 via crowdfunding, and then 2 deals are imminent on related companies with the same ownership. Visa Pharma is a company with a medical device, raised $3.8 million from global investors. Bioprocess Diagnostics has a mass spectrometer. Most of you don't know what that is, but it's a big, huge machine, probably about, would fit in a third of this room. They've got one developed in a mass spectrometer in a briefcase. And Oligot Clean Spot has raised money as well. What we're doing is building on our existing assets. We're not just renting space, we're creating an environment, and that's really the key to our success. We're full right now. The place has 40 offices, 8 laboratories, and we're full as of the end of the month. We're seeing collaboration because of the existence of this place, and effectively what we're doing is manufacturing companies. Next. So what we're trying to say and what we're all about really is instead of being just the land of enchantment, we're becoming the land of entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stu. UNM and its president, Bob Frank, have gone high profile on economic development. And the person you're about to hear from has responsibility for many things at UNM in economic development, including launching Innovate ABQ. Lisa Kudala is CEO and Chief Economic Development Officer for STC.UNM, and I've asked her to say a few words. Lisa.
Thank you, and it's great to follow Stu because we're working so closely with the Bioscience Center in terms of starting new companies. 2 minutes is a short time to tell you about Innovate ABQ, but let me give it a try. Innovate ABQ is a vision for a live, work, play community that would encompass this entrepreneurial activity in partnership with the Bioscience Center, and many of those startups did originate from the University of New Mexico. But in addition to that, also encompass something broader, which would be a community where students who have entrepreneurial aspirations could live, young professionals could live, and the amenities that would go along with that, restaurants, retail, and other coffee shops, which turn out to be incredibly important for these kinds of collisions that Stu talked about, and more innovation, more companies being created. So we're actively engaged in talking to many of you in the community. We're actively engaged in looking at sites, trying to figure out ways to raise money to embark on this ambitious project. We believe that the small ecosystem of startups, which has been created with the help of folks like Stu, the New Mexico Angels, the venture funds, and other investors here in New Mexico, we're poised to try to build more of an infrastructure co-location, which will lead to increased innovation and really take us to the next level of building what we're calling the rainforest in the desert. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Lynn Anderson got the idea for today's program after hearing our next speaker. John Chavez is president of New Mexico Angels and an active investor since 2004. He is also managing director of Phase One Ventures, managing director of the New Mexico Startup Factory, and for 6 years he was cabinet secretary for New Mexico Department of Taxation and Revenue under Gary Johnson. He earned his MBA from NMSU in regulatory economics. John Chavez.
Thank you. I was the cabinet secretary of the Taxation and Revenue Department, so I was blessed with having the entire tax department plus motor vehicle department. So people called me a devil back then, so it's just natural I became an angel after that career. So I want to talk to you about the good news. Well, the good news is for the first time since the HALO report, which is a venture capital fund report, the Southwest sector has beat out California in angel investments, and it was just announced last Friday. The New Mexico Angels have funded 4 companies over the last 6 months. We're in the process of funding a company at the Bioscience Center. We funded Vibrant Corporation, which is a non-destructive test company that was started by Lim Hunter. We funded the New Mexico Startup Factory, which is a company that goes out to UNM, LANL, and New Mexico Tech, and we find technology and we wrap a little bit of money, some IP, and some people around it, and then try and push them out to grow companies in New Mexico. We've also funded from our April meeting a company called Tyrosine Pharma, which is out of UNM. It's a stroke therapy drug that we believe will revolutionize how people take drugs when they have a pharmaceutical when they have a stroke. So there is lots of really cool things going on, and I want to tell you a little bit about angel investors. So in 2011, according to the New Hampshire Center for Venture Research, 300,000 angels pumped in $22.5 billion into 66,000 startups across the United States. This year, they're expecting the angel community to fund at least $28 billion in startups. Now, if that's not positive news, I don't know what it is. One of the other things is the VCs, while they're very important to our ecosystem, they are moving upstream. And so the angel investors are taking a more active role in funding small startups. I think New Mexico is blessed with a very concise and really exciting ecosystem. You have the loan funds, West, Axion, and the loan fund. You have angels, you have gap funders like Flywheel Ventures and Epic Ventures, and then you have the VC community. And you need that entire process to grow companies. And now you have a nonprofit incubator that is helping that process. So once again, good news. So I want to tell you how we do our work. We look at around 300 deals every year for funding, of which we take those 300, we take it down to 50 who are screened by our executive committee, of which those 50 we take down to 20 that are screened by our screening committee of 15 individuals, angel investors, IP attorneys, and deal attorneys. And then we present those companies to our members for investment. So in 2005, we funded 2 companies to the tune of $150,000. which was a good year for us back then. Last year, we funded 7 companies, $1.6 million in funding. This year, after our 2 fundings, we're going to close one this Friday. We will be at $990,000 for this year, and we're not a fund. It's angel investors, New Mexicans investing in New Mexico companies. So once again, good news. How do we do this? We have a core team of people that review these deals. We meet, we talk with the investor, and so that they can understand what it means to take outside capital. The other positive note, and you're going to hear this from the venture capital community along with angel investors, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009 were horrible years for returns on capital for angels, for venture guys and gals. But we're seeing some really cool things where our companies that we invested in 2006, 2007, 2008 are returning capital in a way that is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times your money in. Now the ROI is probably about 20, 22, but we are seeing some home runs on the horizon that will return wealth to both the entrepreneurs and to the investors. And what the investors do is we just turn it around and put it back into the ecosystem. So once again, good things going on. It's good to be here. Real funny story, we funded a company in 2003. They're now over $70 million in revenue. They have 115 employees, and they were bought out by private equity 2 years ago. Those are the stories you're going to hear more about. Thank you.
Creativity and innovation are New Mexico's strong suit and our best path forward. Many companies with those characteristics are part of the New Mexico Tech Council, whose executive director is here for a few comments. Eric Renz Whitmore.
Great. This is just a great event, so thank you. And I only have a few minutes, well, I'm sorry, 2, to talk. So the thing that I'd like to talk about today is that there's really this unprecedented sense of cooperation that we're seeing at a variety of levels here in the state. And I'll give you 2 examples of what we're working on with different partners. One is at the state level, we're working with an informal group called the JT8 of other technology associations that have statewide impact and interests. And we're working on a technology roadmap to look at the opportunities and challenges that we all face in order to add some value or add some perspectives from the tech business community to the state's economic development 5-year plan. But that's something that wasn't going to take place 2 or 3 years ago. That's something that's really evolved over time, where we now have a regular working relationship with these associations to build the state and make it more competitive. More locally, there's another thing that's going on that we're really excited about, and that is a thing called ABQ Tech Fiesta. Over a dozen local groups that work with technologists and startups and are really interested in helping the local community grow have gathered together to put together a tech week happening in early September and build on some existing events that are already taking place. We're really excited about that and the opportunity that it represents for our community and provide a little bit more of the identity that we so sorely need. You'll be hearing a lot more about that, but I want to thank you again, and this is a great event. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Eric. The New Mexico Aerospace and Aviation Association has a lot on its plate, and New Mexico continues to make solid progress within this sector. Virgin Galactic's flights from Spaceport America, as we know, are in sight. Eclipse Aerospace has been hiring and delivers its first jet this fall. Aspen Avionics and Bendix King are both growing, hiring, and recruiting new people to the city. New Mexico is among the state's best. Many of these things came in from you, so thank you. New Mexico is among the state's best positions for UAV industry growth, and New Mexico State University's UAV program is one of the absolute premier programs in the United States. Titan Aerospace recently relocated from California to Moriarty. The Albuquerque Sunport has a new 84-acre site we are marketing to potential users. And I learned that the 12,500-member Soaring Society of America is headquartered in Hobbs. And New Mexico, which is home to Intel, Obviously, National Laboratories and the Santa Fe Institute, among others, is also a world-class player in green chili, pecans, and pistachios. As Harold Morgan said, we sometimes forget our excellence. There is great activity in southern New Mexico, and our next speaker's employer is a positive force in the state. Melissa Forrest has been with Urenco for 7 years, joining the USA project as the Strategic and Financial Planning Manager. In 2010, she was promoted to the UK as Financial Controller. She returned in May of this year as Business Director for Urenco USA Energy Services. A UNM graduate, you may remember her as number 33, tough underneath the boards for Coach Flanagan, and an excellent shooter as well. Please welcome Melissa Forrest.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you to NAOP. I'm a little taller, so I'm gonna move this one up a little bit so I can stand up straight. I promise in my bio I didn't mention basketball because that's been about 10 years, and if anyone asked me to go block anybody out right now, I might fall down. But I do appreciate you recognizing that. And I figured coming back up here, because I am a Hobbs native, so I can get excited about the Soaring being headquartered down there, but I'm also a UNM graduate. So, thanks for inviting us up here and allowing us to share a little bit of the Urenco story. We might be one of the largest companies in New Mexico that you've never heard about. So if we go to the next slide, please. So who are we? Well, Urenco is a uranium enrichment company. We are part of the nuclear fuel cycle. And if you read our vision here, we believe the future needs nuclear power to meet the demand for sustainable global energy. And that's what we're about. That's why we're here. And we were actually recruited into the state. I think we were talking earlier, that was back in the late 90s when that all started. We can see our values over there. Our number one priority is safety. So you can look at our safety record. We went almost 18 million man hours without a lost time accident. So I mean, that's the kind of facility that we're looking to build and operate down south. So go to the next slide. So who are we exactly? Well, our corporate headquarters are actually down in the grand city of Eunice, New Mexico. I'm not sure you guys know where that's at. It's about 20 miles south of Hobbs. We approximately have 350 full-time employees and currently have 25 interns from around the U.S. and mainly from the folks pursuing nuclear-type degrees. Currently, we have about 1,000 construction workers on the site. What most people don't realize is the NRC granted our license to construct and operate in June 2006. I'll show you pictures in a second. We went operational with our first phase in June 2010. That was a $2.5 billion investment in Lee County. We have since had approved and are working right now in phase 2, which is another $1 billion, and recently the board sanctioned a third phase, which will bring the total project up to about $4.5 billion being invested in southeastern New Mexico. One thing I like to say is a lot of folks in this room are actually on the project team. It's a collaborative effort between the designers, the constructors, our local politicians, the regulatory agencies at the state level. And without everybody working together, there was no way this was going to be successful. I think the most important thing has been the community support down not only in southeastern New Mexico, but across the state as well. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So what exactly do we do? We're part of the nuclear fuel cycle. So the first stage of that is mining, which takes place actually mostly in Canada and Australia. The next step is conversion. So they take the uranium out of the ground, they convert it into uranium hexafluoride, and that's when it comes to us. We're in that third little slot there, I guess. That's enrichment. It comes to us as a solid, and I'll get into it in a little bit, just briefly try to explain. I'm not an engineer, so if you're going to ask me technical questions, I'm the wrong person when we get there. And then it goes into fuel fabrication, then it goes to the nuclear power plants. So we go to the next slide. So what do we do? Well, actually, I'm going to read this verbatim so I don't get in trouble. Is we are using the world's leading and most efficient and reliable technology when it comes to uranium enrichment. So what do we do? Well, I said it comes to us, and I'm going to use say simple with air quotes, because what we do is actually fairly simple from a processing standpoint. It comes to us as a solid and a powder. We heat it up put it in subatmospheric pressure, turn it into a gas. We put it into a centrifuge, which when I teach this to 5th graders, I describe it as a salad spinner. Literally, it spins the gas around in a circle. The heavier isotopes move to the outside of the centrifuge. The lighter isotopes stay in the middle. We need the lighter isotopes to produce the fuel. So then it goes into 2 streams, as you can see. We cool it down. The enriched uranium we put into cylinders, and it goes off to the fuel fabricator. And the depleted uranium is put into what we call 48Y cylinders for interim storage on our site. Still contains uranium, it's still considered an asset. Should we move on? So where are we up to right now? Like I said, we've been approved for 3 different phases. Each phase involves 24 what we call cascades. The technology allows us to operate and expand, to expand while operating. So we can add on new cascades without ever shutting the plant off. So currently we just passed halfway, and we have 37 cascades in operation. When we get to full size, we will be able to supply 25% of the US demand for enrichment services. I won't go into that, but I have some other fun facts around construction. So actually, if you were to imagine, who's all been to southeastern New Mexico? Oh yeah, oh, I've got a lot of friends in here. Could you imagine this as being an empty dirt field? Because that's what this was. So in 4 years, we went from an empty dirt field to what right there represents about a $3.5 billion investment and facility. Fun fact, one of the big buildings, it's one of the long buildings in the middle, is actually the largest seismic steel structure in the US. It's just short of 800 feet long and 162 feet wide. Just to give you a reference, since the project's inception, we have had, I believe, just over 12,000 total state inspections over the 4-year period. I didn't have that reaction, you guys did. Like I said, it's been a collaborative effort between the state, the constructors, the designers, and ourselves. So if we go to the next slide, so one of the things I asked to talk about a little bit was what's the future hold? What are you guys doing down there in the future? Well, like I said, we just got phase 3 approved, so I'm going to take you through like a week-by-week slide looking at how phase 3 is progressing. I know several of our construction partners are in the room. So if you go to the next slide, you're going to see how it changes week by week. So you can see here, so what's in our future? Obviously, we're still constructing. We're going to be constructing through 2016. And if future phases come along, great. If not, we will be the largest enrichment site in the Urenco fleet. And currently, we are the leader in market share in the world for uranium enrichment services. So, I mean, and also one of the things we're looking to do as well going forward, I am the business director for Urenco USA Energy Services, looking to take what we've learned in the nuclear sector, but also the construction sector, and we want to share those lessons learned, because we've learned some lessons the hard way, but we've taken those and we've implemented them to be more efficient and effective in the future. We would like to help recruit new business into New Mexico, whether it be nuclear or not, especially if there's major capital construction around it. So if we go on to the next slide, and one of the things I mentioned before was community support was essential. I'll give you some examples from the most recent future. We raised almost $60,000 between the company, mainly our employees, for the United Way of Lee County. I think the next one is from, we said we have 25 interns, and as part of their working with us, they have to do 2 to 3 community service projects when they're with us. The next one. The American Red Cross came on one day and did a bucket brigade and raised $6,000 taking money out of people when they drove in through the gate. I gave some. Go to the next one. So I guess we'll hold questions for later, but again, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody in the room, whether you've been involved or not, because I think we all touch each other whether we know it or not. And there's people who have been directly supportive of us, people have been indirectly supportive of us, and we do appreciate all the support we get from not only our local community, but the business community in the northern part of the state as well. Thanks.
Melissa, thank you. Great presentation. We need more manufacturing in New Mexico. We now have a tax code that will help to achieve that. We produced the Taxman Leaveth, an 8-page special section within this current month's issue of Site Selection magazine, and we've placed that, I think, at every other seat here today. If you want a reprint, and look in your email, I think Lynn will be shipping it out to all NAIOP members as well. There's actually considerable energy around economic development. The city of Albuquerque has recently dedicated $5.5 million to marketing, a closing fund, and workforce development, among other items, which is the first time we've ever had anywhere near those kinds of dollars. Bernalillo County is very aggressive on the economic development front and has been bringing real resources to the table to help win a number of projects, from Lowe's to others. P&M invested recently $250,000 to help grow small businesses. New Mexico Economic Development Department received from the legislature about $3 million for a closing fund for projects. Please take the word out to elected officials around the state. 30 would be great, but 3 million will help. And the New Mexico Economic Development Partnership, led by Steve Varick, got more money for their mission, which is the recruitment of business and industry to the state of New Mexico. And I'd like for Steve to please say a few words.
Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to talk a little bit about the business attraction aspect of economic development, which I think is as positive right now as it has been for about 5 years or so. And I just want to share a few statistics to just reflect the growth in the pipeline of leads and prospects and site visits by these companies. We've actually seen an upsurge in activity since the national election. In fact, almost immediately after the national election, we started to see a lot more interest from corporations that were interested in relocations and expansions. And just to give you a couple of comparables, we're qualifying about 6 prospects per month right now. These are serious lookers that know what their employment is, their facility size, they know they have a timeline. They're looking at New Mexico along with other states like typically Arizona, Colorado, or Texas. So we're at 6 per month right now. Back in March of 2012, we were only at 2 per month, which is pretty bad for a state. But so essentially, the pipeline in terms of qualified prospects has tripled, which is very important. We're also seeing more site visits. I mean, obviously, we don't earn our living off of just getting qualified prospects. We want to see these companies actually visit the state. And we've had 14 site visits, 14 companies. Some have taken multiple visits that have come in since November. So obviously, that's looking very good, too. Just to give you a few examples, it's a pretty diverse range of projects around the state. And again, I'm speaking for New Mexico as a whole versus just greater Albuquerque. But here's just a little bit of a flavor of the 18 top prospects that we've got right now. Major greenhouse operation looking at Cibola communities, 2 different oil distribution facilities, one looking at the southeast corner of the state, one looking at the northwest. Unmanned airborne vehicle testing and evaluation, 2 different projects. Isotopes, medical isotopes research and development and manufacturing. They're actually in town this week, and we'll be with them later on this week. Photovoltaic panels and electrical parts distribution. So, you know, pretty diverse range of projects. And these are the ones that I've read, I think, are greater than 40% probability that they're going to end up here. So it's looking as good as it has in 4 or 5 years. So I think from a business attraction standpoint, you hear a lot of negativity, but frankly, I think this next year will be the best year we've had in about 5 years. Okay, back to you, Gary.
Thanks very much, Steve. Steve and the partnership are doing a great job. AED's activity is also up, and so is our optimism. We're a finalist now for a few projects that we expect will make decisions in the summer and in the fall. One of the companies that a very large group of us work together on to bring to New Mexico is Lowe's, for their first U.S. corporate office outside of North Carolina. And the gentleman who runs that site is Jeff Espenship, and I've asked Jeff to say a few words today as well.
Thank you, Gary, and you make an excellent point that it was a joint effort. I was just thinking 2 years ago, I was sitting back in North Carolina, and we were trying to decide where we wanted to be. And as Steve said, we took a tour of some of those same areas. We had just finished up, I think, early July. We had been here in Albuquerque, and we really fell in love with the place. It was a decision we made that, as Gary said, it's our first corporate office footprint outside of the state of North Carolina. It was taken very serious. At the time, we thought we'd need space for about 500 agents on the phone. We're blocking and tackling, right? We're customer service. We're frontline talking to the Lowe's customer. Not as glamorous as some of the other things you've heard about today, but we said, 500 people, that's what we're looking for. We found space about 65,000 square feet. We figured, okay, that'll get us up to around 600 agents. I currently have 700 agents in the building, and the building next to us, we have signed a lease on another 35,000 square feet. Total, we'll get somewhere around 1,000. Initially, we thought we'd be around 600 by the end of our third year. We will end up about that 1,000 in a year and a half, 2 years. So Albuquerque's been great to us. We found a lot of great talent. We're just happy to be here.
Thanks very much, Jeff. Speaking of Lowe's and construction, New Mexico is rebounding, as we heard in many of the emails that you all sent. Downtown housing, a three-phase, 347-unit move-up Pulte development, single-family development called the Boulders. Winrock, new stores at Coronado, new schools, retail, healthcare projects, and the new 93,000 square foot Gateway to Space facility for Virgin Galactic. Many of these items are in handouts that are at your place called Good News for additional information. Also, Jim Folkman reminds us that New Mexico and Albuquerque leading the nation in green building. There are many exciting young companies throughout New Mexico, including AtPay, App City, Boomtime, and Ultramain Systems, just to name a few. One of my favorites is Lavu, and its founder is our final speaker. Perhaps you heard him at AED's luncheon about a year ago or so. Andy Lim is a graduate of UNM. He's a software developer, a serial entrepreneur, and has been involved with many startups. He was the star of the Insert special section that we produce for Entrepreneur Magazine, which is at every other seat at the table today. Andy is the CEO of Lavu Inc. of Albuquerque. Please welcome Andy Lim.
I'm short, so I'm gonna put this down. And John, no offense, but I'm bringing my own computer. Let's see. Hopefully it works. Starting up. I'll let it start up for now. First of all, I want to thank NAOP for inviting me here. It's truly humble, and I greatly appreciate it. We're just a small potatoes here in Albuquerque, but we're growing. I also especially want to thank Gary. Gary has been tremendous in helping Lavu. I can't even tell you anybody that's truly passionate about Albuquerque and growing Albuquerque. The truth is that he really do care about Albuquerque. So thank you, Gary.
Very much.
So let me go ahead and start it. I'll start with a glimpse of what Lavu is. So it's going to be a video. I'm going to waste about a minute and a half. So I have 7 minutes, so we're good to go. Wait for it. Wait for it. There you go. The fun part. the fun part. So that's Lavu. Actually, we did everything in-house. The maker of video actually with me today, that's Ben. And we're making the balloon too. That's the next goal, making the balloon. Today's it's about good news, Albuquerque, good news, New Mexico. Obviously, Lavu, it's good news for Albuquerque and vice versa. So we're gonna talk about 3 things here. Well, first of all, let me kind of give you guys an overview of where we stand in terms of Lavu as a company. So Lavu really started in 2011 when we first have our product out there. We actually, we start developing 2010, get all the kinks figured out, and we released the product 2011. So we're kind of 3-4 years old company. We have 3,000 plus customers nationwide and international. 60 countries. We have 37 people now. So it went from my kitchen table, 3 people, to about 37 people now. We have 180 distributors nationwide. We actually went to about 380s, and we figured most of them are not really dedicated themselves, so we cut it down almost to half. And now we have about 180 plus distributors, but a good one. And most importantly, we are 100% made here in Albuquerque. So every single, we don't outsource anything, with one exception. It's our T-shirt giveaway. So anybody is doing T-shirt here, let me know. We find the best. We don't want to give up crap. We want to give up good thing. So we actually imported the 100% Pima cotton T-shirt that is truly blow your minds away. It's really soft. So there's really 3 things I want to talk about today. A little bit background about me and Lavu and how Albuquerque is benefiting Lavu and vice versa, and the future of us here in Albuquerque. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. 7 minutes. I got 7 minutes. So the very first question people ask me usually, and somebody actually already asked me today, why Albuquerque, New Mexico? And I showed them a picture. I'm like, well, what's not to love? Right there, right? And the second thing I will tell them is it's complicated. And I don't want to go to detail because we don't have time. Right. So it's really, there's a hint. There's earthquake first, and then a woman follow later. So that's why I'm in Albuquerque. True story. How Lavu started? Lavu started with the mind of helping a friend. So we really just want to. I just really want to help a friend, and it turns out to be a big business. So help your friend. So the second things that we want to talk about is how is Albuquerque's benefits Lavu. So obviously low cost of living, adequate resources. I say adequate because it's pretty hard to find programmers here, but we found them, and they're really brilliant. They're geniuses, and they're from here. Most of our programmers came from UNM and NM Tech, and we grabbed them while they're young. So, and it's obviously great community support. Gary has been tremendous. A lot of community has been very helpful in helping us here. And how is Lavu benefiting Albuquerque? Job creations, no doubt, and hopefully way more. And we're looking for funding, maybe sometimes in the future, and we'll hire a lot more. We bring a lot of people to Albuquerque. For example, we have an event that we held in Hard Rock Casino and Hotel. We bring about 100 plus people. all around the nation and 7 countries. People actually flying from, say, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand to Albuquerque. So we're pretty proud of that. And hopefully, we can be the catalyst for tech community here in Albuquerque. Hopefully. So I truly believe that in order to have a great team, a great company, you have to have a great team. And we have a great team, it's really a great team effort. And how do you know that they are a great team? It's when stuff hit the fan. That's when it's really, then you know the true color. And I'm not going to go through detail on that, but you guys can ask me that later. So Lavu is around the world, as you can see on the map. We have great supporters. We have Gordon Ramsay, obviously. We've been in 6 episodes of Kitchen Nightmares. As a matter of fact, we already signed the contract. We actually filmed next episode for Hotel Hell. So now we're going to branch out to a niche market, Hotel Hell. We are also in Apple Cafeteria. A lot of people don't know that. We don't publicize it because Apple will ban us forever. But we can talk about it here. It's only 350 people. So we are all in Apple headquarters now, around the world, even in Shanghai, in Singapore, and everywhere. And we have a lot of support on, our payment processor. So if you guys want to get a good deal on the rate, let me know. Hardware, restaurant suppliers, they have been a tremendous supporter. So the third thing is future in Albuquerque. So what is our future here in Albuquerque? I think everybody can be successful. Anybody, any company can be very successful here in Albuquerque. And I tell you why. And Lavu is growing rapidly, and we're going to go to hotel and whatnot. But most importantly, there is a support. There's a foundation. There's help. And we can do it here. And there's a lot of people that doesn't, there's going to be challenges ahead. But I think Lavu will stay and grow here. That's my commitment. We're not going to move anywhere. You can't kick us out here, but anyway. And yeah, so I think, help out. There's a lot of support here and foundation to be successful, and we're going to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time for some questions of the panelists.
Actually, Lavu is very profitable. We are privately, organically funded. We don't reach out to any investment fund yet. Our run rate right now is about 4 or 5 million. We doubled again last year revenue, and we're very profitable. Net margin of 35%.
New Mexico not having right to work is, and conversely, how important it would be to stimulate our business if we did have a right to work, which the state obviously hasn't figured out. Would you get us some clarification on how important it is or isn't? Thank you.
John. So I'll take, so it's an important issue. We go out talking with site selection consultants around the country, and the message actually was just after Governor Martinez was elected, and I was meeting with a site selection consultant in Atlanta, and I said, hey, we have a new governor now. If she were here, what one message would you have for her? And he said, adopt right to work. And I said, really? I said, so in Albuquerque, in the manufacturing sector, actually, we have 0 unionization. I said, we know that that's an issue for some companies, but we believe that we can sell through it. And his response was, I don't have doubt that you can sell through it, but I'm telling you, you won't have an opportunity to. And he said, because for us, he said about 50% of our projects will not give consideration to a state that is not a right to work state. And I thought that that was off the charts, maybe an exaggerated number. I ask that subsequently to a number of other consultants every time I go to see a consultant. And typically, it's in the 25% to a third of all projects. They say will not consider a state that does not have a right to work. Questions for the panelists, please. These are our special guests, and we're glad they're here.
Yeah, I actually have two questions for Melissa. The first question is, how are the Lady Lobos going to do this year? And the second question is, tell us about some of the other companies that Urenco does business with in New Mexico.
Okay. Actually, I think the Lady Lobos, you'll see a marked improvement this year. And I think that's due more towards the team coming together more as a team. And I've seen different behaviors out of the girls and the coaching staff, because I do have a little bit of an insight into that. So I think that's a go Lobos. And I'll see everybody in Vegas, right? Because that's always a good time. And then there's the second question. I don't know if the folks in the room that do work with us, if you don't mind exposing yourself and standing up so I don't have to expose you. I know Henderson, year out's in the room. I've seen some of those. Henderson, year out. There's B&D. There's a few in the room. To be honest with you, I've been gone for 3.5 years. I've been only back for a couple of months. So if those folks stood up, go have a chat with them. There are quite a few companies from the southeastern part of the state as well. But a lot of the large construction support does come from the Albuquerque area.
Thank you. John Garcia?
Yeah, I have a question. Andy, the name Lavu is interesting. How did you come up with that name?
Oh, you know about it, John. It's really I'll tell you a little story. So I was brainstorming at my house with my partner, and my babies, which is 1.5 years, come along and keep bugging me, say, "Lavu daddy, lavu daddy, lavu daddy, lavu daddy, lavu daddy," and they're big there for Lavu. Yeah.
Mr. Silverman.
Andy, I'm assuming you're involved in the JT8 under the IT and software group. Is that a fair assumption?
No.
Okay, so
I'll ask
the question a little differently then. How large would you say the universe is of people doing in Albuquerque what you're doing in terms of software development, apps, whatever it may be, creating products within the IT software realm?
Well, I know we have AdPay, yeah. I didn't see too many of them right now, but I hope that's why I'm saying we probably can be the catalyst of Young. We're gonna stay here. Hopefully that spur interest that you can actually grow it here, you can actually hire programmers here. Support here is pretty low cost, so it's just a matter of time, I think. And there is a tech community that's going to be starting on helping those people that's interested. Actually, I have quite a bit of other idea that I want to do after Lavu is done. Maybe that can be a next thing.
Very good. Thank you.
One more question? Okay, now we're going to try the video one more time.
we have the tickets? So it should be a great event, and again, I think nominations are due by this Friday. So we have our drawing for our $100 gift card, and I guess Lynn's going to pull that. Laura Wiley. Laura, see me, and I've got the gift card here. As a reminder, first of all, let me thank Gary for moderating today and all the panelists and other speakers today. Very, very good. You know, I think we all know it's been challenging times. It's hard to believe it's, you know, really been 5 or 6 years since the economy really kind of hit the skids, and we've been slowly coming back. And I think more and more we're hearing good news all the time, not only nationally, but also locally here in New Mexico and Albuquerque particularly. And thanks to all of you that work so hard to support our communities and do what we do. So appreciate that very much too. As a reminder, we've got our mayoral candidate forum with the 3 candidates. That's going to be our next luncheon, which is August 26th. And then after that, we've got our September 5th breakfast with the Albuquerque City Council Candidate Forum. So make sure you plan on attending that. And I think Ian is going to be our moderator for that, so appreciate that very much, Ian. So everybody have a great day. Take care of yourselves. Thank you all for being here.